Okay, so been a lot of talk this week after the Carabo Cup final. A lot to do with Liverpool and basically is the league title only underwhelming as winning a trophy this season. Since it's been talked about, the quadruple was on again as it is at the start of every season, obviously, and then a little bit of a treble with the Champions League. They go out to PSG, and then you obviously then lose the Carabo Cup final on Sunday, which ends the thought process of having a double. So yeah, that's kind of been the chat on all the football stuff that I've seen, and it's really interesting. Like I don't ever remember anyone else just winning the league title being phrased as that. They've just won the league title. It's typically, oh, that team's been brilliant. I mean, Liverpool have lost one game this season in the league. Let's be honest, they've lost that game against Forest. They lost to Newcastle on Sunday, and then they obviously lose the knockout game to PSG the second leg. So they've lost three, I would say, meaningful games this season that they've gone for. So there's not much more you can do than that, to be honest. No one really goes with winning every single game and every single competition. But what I have thought has been interesting is that I think there's such a more interesting topic to discuss with Liverpool, and that is, I think every Liverpool fan would probably agree with me that this team feels like it can be massively improved. Now, if we sit here and we look at it, they're currently sitting on 70 points with 9 games to play, right? So the Klopp got 82 last season with the squad. Only K's has been added to it. So they're gonna improve on that and potentially finish with a league title as long as they don't blow it. So you're looking at what, 9 games to go, so 27 points. So they can finish on 97 points, which would be the second highest total they've ever had in the club's history, along with the 18-19 season where we came second against City. Probably not going to happen. Obviously, not going to get every single point you would imagine. But with only the league to focus on, you never know. But they're gonna do well as long as they don't bottle it. So I thought the more interesting thing to look at was really what's going to happen in the summer, because there's a lot going on. Like the contracts has been very, very quiet because Liverpool have been doing so well and they've been in all the competitions and they've been flying, and now it's just the league that those discussions are going to ramp up. Obviously, with only 9 games to go, you would assume by now the decision's been made from all three players and the club probably long ago on if they're staying or if they're going. Now, there's loads of different scenarios. One of them doesn't want to stay or is leaving, so they're not going to announce it until the end of the season altogether to not out that player, so it's harder in the season. We could go through a million different things as to why maybe there's nothing announced. So I wanted to go through those three scenarios. I wanted to look at Liverpool's team. I don't want to go through who I think they should buy in the summer because, to be quite honest, I don't know. My main focus and knowledge is just on the Premier League, so I might touch on a couple of players in the Prem that I would like to see them. But in terms of Europe, we'll have a little look at certainly attackers. I have no idea. So I wanted to go through that and have a wee look. So I think there's three scenarios, right? Scenario one is best case scenario for Liverpool fans. All three players sign. So Trent stays, Van Dijk stays, Salah stays. And let's start with that. If that's the case, which I don't think will be, I do not think all three will stay, then I think the areas that Liverpool should look to strengthen on, if we look at this kind of depth chart of this season's teams for me, would be left back and definitely centre forward. I think even if you kept all the attackers, you still want another centre forward in there, maybe another wide player, because he's not really trusted Keza too much. Maybe the plan is to have him a bit more in next season, who knows. And I think even if you have Robbo there, I'm not Simicast's biggest fan. We can see there's been, dips in Robbo, even though the last few games he's actually probably been one of the better players. Thought he was in the cup final, thought he was against PSG. I love him to death, but he's definitely been moments of little dips. He's obviously getting older, so you got to look to plan. So for me, I'd go left back and I'd go centre forward. So if I go through for the ones that are listening, the kind of depth chart of the players, and again, I'm not going to touch on every single player, it's just kind of the main core that get used. So keepers, you've got Alisson, you've got Kelleher, lots of talk on Alisson, obviously, with Marmoush Ville coming in. Will Allison be leaving? Does that mean Kelleher's leaving? Who's number one? Who's number two? Who knows? At right back at the moment, again in scenario one, you'd have Trent and Bradley. Your centre half, you've got Konate and Kwanzaa, Van Dijk and Gomez. Left back, you've got Robo and Tsimikas, as I've said. Then you go through the midfielders, you've got McAllister, Endo. On this graph, it's got Tyler Morton. Obviously doesn't really feature. You've got Szoboszlai and Elliott. You've got Gravenberch. You've got Jones, and you've got the young boy Nione, who again, could be for the future, but isn't really going to feature too much in the squad. Moving forwards, we all know it's pretty much Mohamed Salah off that right hand side with Chiesa kind of his cover, even though he's barely played. Through the middle, really you've got Jota and Nunez, even though Diaz and Gakpo can do that, who are kind of the two on the left. So, like I said, scenario one, all three stay. I'd go left back and centre forward. Now, left back wise, for me, I like Kirkaz at Bournemouth. I think he's really good. I like Nori at Wolves too. They're the two that stand out in my head that I think you could go get for a decent fee, who are young enough and who I think could really improve the squad and play in the way that it looks like we want to play with our fullbacks. So that would be my suggestion on the left back side of things. In terms of centre forward, I think it's fairly obvious. All the chat has literally been on Isak. Really out there is probably the only number 9 that you can think of. It's been difficult for teams to find that 9, but Liverpool, if he's available, will not be the only team in that market, right? Arsenal will be. I mean, I know United are miles down, but they could still be in for that. Chelsea are always in the mix for any player. So Isak's the one there, but he's probably gonna. Well, he's not probably. He's gonna cost you an arm and a leg. He's gonna break the bank, and surely you would think be the majority of your summer spend, right? He's probably gonna cost close to 100. In and around that mark. So that's really going to be a lot of your summer spend. So if you do that, you take care of that one area, but then I still, again, do think that left back area is something that you want to look to improve on, right? But the areas that I didn't think we need immediate changes to or additions to, because he's been so good this season. Another one would be Gravenberch. Now, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's been great this season, but he's looked as of late like he's been ran into the ground a little bit. He looks like his legs are running out a bit, and you would want to probably have cover. We know we tried to sign Zubimendi in the summer, so that's obviously an area we'll probably be looking to improve on. And yeah, looking at those numbers and the way it's been, McAllister, Szoboszlai and Gravenberch pretty much play every game. Jones can come in sometimes, and Elliott hasn't really featured too much. So you've really got 4 players for those 3 positions, and the amount of running that they have to do, especially McAllister and Szoboszlai, is a lot. So you probably do need to add another midfielder to that. Again, I'm not here to talk about who I think we should sign. I just kind of want to put the position of the 3 scenarios in there. I don't know who I would take. I'm trying to think if there's anyone in the league off the top of my head that I would take. I can't think off the top of my head. You've got the boys at Brighton like Baleba. I mean, there's always talks of Bruno Gomes, but he loves Newcastle. I don't see him going. He'd cost you an arm and a leg. So that's another area that needs to look at there. So for me, that's really scenario 1. Like, who do you look to get in if you keep Trent, you keep Virgil, and you keep Salah, right? Scenario 2 for me is really, I think that most likely, scenario 2, Trent is off to Real Madrid, and I hope, this is going with my heart, Van Dijk and Salah stay. So for me, that would be scenario 2. Van Dijk and Salah stay, Trent goes to Madrid. Now, I still think you still need to add in the striker area in that position. I also still think you need to add in the left back area. You probably could do with adding another centre mid. And in that case, you going forwards with Connor Bradley as your right back. And even if you are, you're going to need to bring someone in to be back up to him. We've seen Kwanzaa do it a little bit this season, but it's not his position, right? It's not his position. Connor Bradley has been relatively injury prone since he has come in. I think he's absolutely fantastic. There's definitely been loads of moments and times last season and this season where I think if Trent did go, Connor Bradley could play in there, and I actually think he would suit Slot a little bit better, who likes that control and keeping the ball, whereas you see sometimes when Trent tries to play those passes and he's not on it, doesn't come off, it doesn't suit the way that Slot wants to play football. When they come off, by the way, they're excellent, and you lose a lot without him. You've seen that in the cup final on Sunday. But yeah, I think that you're then going to have to buy a right back. So you're going in with all the positions I've talked about, striker, left back, probably centre mid, and then you need to look and go buy a right back. Are you going to go and buy a world-class right back? I don't know who that would be. Or are you going to have an understudy to Connor Bradley? But Connor Bradley is 21, so he's young. If you're saying he's your starting right back and he's doing well, is that other guy going to get in the team? If so, who's that going to be? Who's going to be happy to sit there on the bench and do that? So there's so many moving pieces. I want to touch on the striker bit, and move into that little area there, because if you look across, sorry, I'm going to have a little look, most goals and assists in Europe, right? So if you look across it, Salah's the top. He's played 29 games. He's got 27 goals. And he's got 17 assists. I'm not too sure if this is just league, but let's just go with what the numbers are on there. Your next, you've got obviously Gyökeres at Sporting, who is going to be sought after again. That could be another centre forward option. Maybe be a little bit cheaper than Isak. He's 26. He's played 25, scored 28 goals, and got 6 assists, right? So he's been decent. You've then got Harry Kane. You're not really going to go in for him. Marmoush is just moved to City. You've got Matteo Retegui. I'm probably saying that absolutely horrendous. He's at Atalanta. Personally, I have no idea about him. He's played 27 games. He scored 22 goals. He's 25, so he's a good age, and he's got 4 assists. You're then kind of looking at your standards, right? Dembele, Lewandowski, Haaland, Osimhen, who's 26, but let's be honest, I don't know what's happened with that after Napoli. No one's really fancied him. And, you move down, Chris Wood's in there, as you can see on here. Now, an interesting one for an attacker, it wouldn't be your goal scorer, and it depends on which way you want to go about it, because as we know, Salah's Liverpool's goal scorer. There's been that stat floating around about Diaz, Nunez and Jota. The amount of goals they've got between them is literally hee-haw in the last kind of X amount of appearances between them. So Salah's the man that gets the goals for Liverpool. And I think if, obviously I'm talking about scenario 2 where he's still there, then fine. But you need to still plan ahead for him, because let's be honest, it's going to be a year or 2 deal tops. And even then, what if he dips off, or what if he's injured? The others at the moment that you've got in there don't have goals. As much as I love Luis Diaz for his work rate, and I would keep him and he would be on my left winger, he's not quite showing that he's consistent enough to get a bunch of goals. Jota just looks like he's dipping off this season ever since that injury, and Nunez has just not quite been it, right? Gakpo's definitely shown this season he could get some goals, but again, a couple of injuries, and it's going to take him a little bit of time. So one interesting name on the list there is Mbeumo at Brentford, 25 years old. This has probably been his best season he's had. 29 games, 15 goals, 5 assists. He plays Salah position, so that probably plays into scenario 3, which I'll get onto, which is all of them leaving. Who's going to be that guy that comes in and play that position? Because I don't think it's going to be Chiesa if Salah goes. So Mbeumo's another interesting one, and then we can go through it. Your Florian Wirtz, and that is a bit more an attacking midfielder. But that's just a little look at kind of the most goals and assists in Europe. So that's a tough position to buy for. So I'm intrigued to see what happens with that. Before I do go into scenario 3, in fact, no, we'll go into scenario 3 would be all 3 players go. Van Dijk goes, Salah goes, Trent goes. In which case, you really need to get a right back. You definitely probably need to sign another world-class centre-half. I still think you need a left-back. The club wanted a centre midfielder, and even if you keep Jota, Nunez, Chiesa, Diaz and Gakpo, you're going to have to add to that again with another world-class striker, because you've lost your goal scorer. So you're going to have to add some form of goal scorer in there. And if that's not off the right wing and you're going to put him through the middle, who's going to play right wing? So if all 3 go, there is a huge amount of work to be done for Liverpool. Could you get by with another season with Robbo at left back? I absolutely think you can. I think he puts in the work rate. There's a dip. Could you get by again with the same midfield? They're all pretty young. Probably, but all it takes is, as we know, one injury, and that's gone. So scenario 3 lays a lot of work for Liverpool. That leads on to my last point that I want to make in here, which I had a look at when I was just looking at the squad in terms of contract. So we know, as I said, Liverpool have signed Marmoush, if I'm saying that right. Sorry, butchering name, Scottish accent. So he signed him, so is that maybe an indication that Alisson is A, leaving this season, or B, maybe looking to leave? His contract does finish in 2027. So he's got 2 years left on that contract coming up. Again, are you going to want to lose him for free? Liverpool kind of don't seem to really mind that. If they're going to look to cash in, it's going to be this season, or it's going to have to be next summer. With a year on the deal, clubs can kind of, get him for less price. So that's one player seen there. Kelleher, talked about him, his contract's up again, which would probably say why we've signed the boy from Valencia. One really interesting one was Ibu Konate, who 25 years old. I personally think Konate's really, really matured this season and come on leaps and bounds. And I think has the potential to be one of the best centre halves in the world. I know a lot of people might say it was a bomb scare, and I do get that, but I really do think Kanate showed a lot of maturity this season, and he stayed fitter this year. He's had to play a lot, and he's definitely stayed fitter this year. The way that we've played, he's not been asked to cover that ground behind Trent as much as he was under Klopp. So I think that he could go on to be one of the best centre backs in the world, and I personally would be looking to tie that down. Cards are in his hand. There's 1 year to go. Again, if you're not going to sign him and he's not interested in signing, I don't know why he wouldn't be, then what are you going to look to do? Because there's a year on his contract. Are you going to let it run down to next year and let him go for free? Or are we going to try and tie him down? We've surely got to try and tie him down. Joe Gomez, who's in there too, very injury prone. Only 27, Gomez. That's mental. Again, June 30th, 2027. We know Van Dijk's contract's up this season. Touched on Andy Robertson, maybe looking to replace him. His contract's up next summer, so he's now into his last year contract. He's 31. Are you going to look to renew that? Are you going to look to move him on? Is he going to be a backup? Does he want to do that? There's so many things at play here. There's so many things at play, and again, that's what I'm saying about this video I wanted to do. The whole talk of Liverpool bottled it, and it's the league, and blah, 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 and that's all fine and well. You can have those conversations. But I think this is interesting. There's a lot of work to do with the squad, and they've got to get a lot right, or else it could really go tits up. We've seen, have a dip or whatever and drop down. No fan wants that, but there's no guarantee you come back up. Below him, you've got Samikas, 2027 contract. Trent, as we know, is out this season. Even Bradley's 2027. Just scrolling down here, Jones, who you'd imagine stays. He's at Scouse Lad. You surely would think so. 2027. Elliott's an interesting one. Not had a lot of game time. I really like Harvey Elliott. I think he's a great player. He is stuck a bit in between stools at the highest level. He's not quite fast enough to be a winger, and he's not quite physical enough to be that kind of 8 or 10. I mean, if he might be better on the ball than Szoboszlai, but if you look at all the ground Szoboszlai covers and the work rate and the physicality he adds to the most physical part of the pitch, it's just been so hard for him to get in. He's not had a great season, and his contract expires in 2027, so not too long to go. Same with Luis Diaz is 2027. And Jota's 2027 too, and sitting on 28. So there's a lot to do there. There's a lot to do there for Liverpool, and yeah, I just don't know where they're gonna go with that all. There's a lot of work to do in the background that I don't think too many people are talking about. Well, obviously they're not, because it's not an interesting thing to talk about. It's more interesting to talk about them bottling the season and only winning the Premier League. Craziness. But there's a lot to go on. And if all three, even if 2 of the 3 don't stay out of Van Dijk, Salah and Trent, the hole that it's leaving is absolutely massive. It really, really is. Alongside of all the other things you've got to probably already take care of, not mentioning those guys, I'd be worried. Now, I want to enjoy the last 9 games, get over the line, go down to Liverpool, enjoy the title celebrations. But moving forwards, I hope they've got things sorted out, and I hope they have a decent plan, and I hope things are going well with all the talks and certainly contracts and signing new players, because they've left themselves potentially a hell of a lot to do. There's a lot to do anyway without any of the 3 leaving, never mind 1, 2 or all of them. So interesting times. I also kind of just pulled up the stats of the Prem players. I was just having a look at strikers and goal scorers, but we kind of all know who that is in there. You've got Salah's top, Haaland. You're not going to get Haaland. Isak we talked about. You're not going to buy Chris Wood. And Mbeumo's an interesting one. Palmer, Vissa, probably not. I like the looks of Cunha at Wolves. Is he going to come in and be good enough to be challenging for titles and win Champions Leagues? Not too sure. Yeah, there is a lot to happen at Liverpool. So yeah, anyone that watches this, interested to hear your thoughts, leave comments in the video. I do enjoy doing these. It was an interesting little look into it. I was quite surprised at some of the contracts that are coming up soon and who it's for. Yeah, we got to hope that the club have got things right here, and they're not messing around in the background, and at very least 2 of the 3 of those boys sign their contracts. Out of who's the most important, I don't know. I don't know how you replace Salah's goals. I don't know how you replace Van Dijk as a centre-half, a leader and a captain. I don't know. And I think I would be in agreement that of the 3, Trent would be the quote-unquote easiest to replace. But he's the player that has that specialised trait in those passes, and he gets forward and he can score some screamers, and free kicks, and yeah, he's just got specialised traits that are just very, very hard to replace. And you can maybe move the position in a different way if you wanted it to, but you're still going to miss that. So who knows? Who knows? But yeah, let's hope Liverpool can get it right.